Ellis here. Welcome to the latest episode of the weekly Roundup podcast. We've had a week off after that, UFC London in Vegas card. So it's something I needed actually after seeing Darren Till get absolutely mopped. I've just finished crying. So we're here. We've got Michael Gingrich. Is that right? Gingrich?
Gingrich. Yep.
Gingrich. He's just told me that off camera. Still got it wrong. So Gingrich, and he's been during he's with LowKick, and he's been helping us out as an intern over the past few weeks, and he's going to be here for the next few months doing great work. So glad to finally meet you in the flesh properly.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Looking forward to getting stuck into some fights. Obviously, it's not the most stacked card, but UFC Vegas 37. It's got a few decent fights, and we'll start right at the top. Anthony Smith against Ryan Spann. For me, I think it's going to be a banger for as long as it lasts. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, I do too. I think obviously it's gonna, whoever wins, it's not going to decision. That's for sure. Both these guys win within the 5 rounds, 3 rounds. I know Anthony Smith, this is like his 8th or 9th headlining fight actually. He only loses to the best of the best really. But I just think Ryan Spann's he's been really good recently. He comes with power and length. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be a tough fight for Anthony Smith for sure.
Yeah, I think I want to get your opinion on this. I really like the fact that Anthony Smith has dropped down in levels. Obviously he was at the top for so long, and I feel like dropping down a level or two and taking these, what some people will say easier fights, it shows a lot of confidence because, as I was saying just now, Darren Till, I'm a big Darren Till fan. I think that's exactly what he needs. Just drop down the competition, trust in your abilities that you can beat these guys, build some momentum, get some wins on your record. And I expect Anthony Smith to do that again against Smith. I think he's won, was it 2 in a row now, or maybe 3? What's he got? Yeah, 2 in a row.
Smith, you too, yeah.
Yeah, Devin Clark and Jimmy Crute, which are good wins, and Ryan Spann is another step up from that. I think he's dangerous. But I think Smith can withstand the storm and win that way. What do you make of, Smith being so close to the title, fighting all these contenders, and now taking a considerable step down the rankings?
Kind of like you said, he's taken so much damage, especially when he fights the better fighters in the division. I feel like kind of like reestablishing himself in the division, fighting a couple up and comers and people in from the 8 to 15 rank is actually good for his confidence too, as you said. And I'm a huge Darren Till fan as well. I think they fed him to the Sharks too early in his career, but I'd love to see him do that as well. But
yeah, I think it's a really good move, and for me, I'm back on the Smith train. After that Glover fight, it was hard to see where he was going to go, but he's really, I think it shows a lot of confidence and maturity to say, I'm going to just take a step back just for a moment. And, after this one, maybe a big fight presents himself, but I do expect Smith to win this. I think Spann, 30 years old, he could still potentially be a title contender, but I feel like Johnny Walker last time out should have been someone. If you're going to reach that up echelons, you maybe should have took him out. And I know he was close, but it's just a bit too wild. And I don't think obviously Smith's got one of the best chins in the division. So I don't think he's going to fall to the early swarm, but you never know. And I think Smith was speaking to James Lynch, who works for us, and he was saying, I expect it to be tough for one round. And that's kind of how I see it. I expect them to withstand some early pressure, but then pretty much take over in rounds 2 and 3 and probably get him out of there. I think before the end of round 3, he'll have him out of there. What's your official prediction for this one?
Man, it's tough. I want to say probably Smith in the second round. That's probably what I would lean towards, and I think he has a better well polished ground game and submissions than Spann does. So I think if he wins, it might be something like from ground and pound. But like you said, that first round, he has to get out of that first round with Spann, for sure.
Yeah,
it's my official prediction will be the second Smith in the second.
Yeah, I think after that first, he will take over. But make no doubt about it, we're not writing off Spann here. He's a dangerous guy, and as we said, for a while, I think he'll be banging this fight. And Smith's a pretty easy guy to hit as well. So, maybe a bit of MMA maths leads to him getting knocked out. But I just don't see it on this one. And we'll move on to the co-main event, and even as we've just mentioned, Devin Clark, recent opponent of Smith, he's in there with Ian Cutelaba. Good fight. Cutelaba's a fun one to watch always. Who do you have in this one?
This is another tough one. I know Clark's been on like a down. He lost to Smith. He actually lost to Ryan Spann too, I believe, a year ago or so. I want to say I lean Cutelaba. I lean Cutelaba on this one. Clark he's what he is. I like Cutelaba's stand up, and he lands a lot of significant strikes.
Yeah, but as of late, his form hasn't been the best, has it, Cutelaba? So for me, it is hard to put too much. Like if I'm a betting man, I wouldn't be putting any money on him. But at the same time, he's 27 years old. He's got a lot of, development left, and I'm never want someone to write off, a young fighter with potential and things like that. But his last win with Khalil Rountree Jr. back in 2019, it's been a minute, and I think he needs this more than Devin Clark does. Devin Clark, recently was on a win streak. Until he fought Smith, he was doing really well. He got that win over Alonzo Menifield, which is, big. I was fully on that hype train when he was starching everyone. Before that, losses to Smith, Spann, Rakic, Blachowicz. These are not bad losses at all. He since his UFC debut, he hasn't lost to someone of the standard of Cutelaba. So I think Devin Clark might be able to grind this out, but Cutelaba could be fighting for his UFC contract at this point. This is a weird spot to be in, co-main event. But if he loses, what do you do with him? Where does he go? I'm not sure. Official prediction, I'm going Devin Clark, probably by decision. How do you see it going exactly?
I like Cutelaba just because I like as a betting man, I like betting on people that their backs are against the wall. And he's, like you said, he's fighting for his career here. So I see him winning, maybe eking out a close decision.
Yeah, it was a similar situation the other week when Sam Alvey was fighting. What was the guy's name? It was some Brazilian guy, and he was 25, and he'd had a pretty poor record in the UFC. But it's hard to, back against these kids who are, 27, 25. You're already in UFC. You're clearly talented. It's just about delivering on that big stage. And Cutelaba is definitely one of them who could turn it around. And next thing you know, he's a potential contender. But I just think Devin Clark could be a little bit too crafty, and we'll obviously move on for that one. So before that, we've got Ariane Lipski against Mandy Bohm. For me, Lipski was once a potential, star. Obviously she's got the look. She's young. She's Brazilian, but it just really has fell off. 4 of the last 6 fights she's lost now. Not necessarily to the creme de la creme. Antonia Shevchenko, Molly McCann. Good fighters, but they're not at the top of the division. They're not potential contenders. But then she pulls it all around at one point, and she gets that knee bar, which for me was one of the submissions of the year. So she is capable, very clearly capable. But I do think this is a tough fight. Obviously, we've got Mandy coming in. Is she 6-0, 7-0, something like that? It does seem to, a nickname's monster. You're like, it's a worrying fight for Lipski, and it kind of does feel like she's getting fed to the wolves. So hopefully she can turn it around. I am a fan, but it's hard to back against someone like this. Undefeated 32-year-old, seems to be in a prime, coming off a win in Bellator. But this is the biggest stage, definitely, probably the best fighter she ever fought. So I could smell upset, but I do lean towards Mandy in this one. I'm not sure if it's a late notice fight as well. Not sure how that's working in this one, but I give the edge to Mandy. Do you have a pick on this one?
Like I said with the Cutelaba fight, with a back fighter that's her back's against the wall type deal. Yeah, man, like you said, Mandy, boom, she's coming in. She's unbeaten, 7-0 with one contest. She carries a lot of knockout power. Lipski does. So I'm I think I'm leaning towards the upset here too. Little hype train coming in.
Yeah,
Feel,
I haven't
feeling a
officially
little
looked at the lot.
upsets here with the UFC with this Vegas for some reason. I don't know
I,
why.
I haven't looked at the odds, so Lipsky might be fit. You know what? We'll just do it now.
Yeah.
Look at the odds there quick because Lipsky might be fit because I'm feeling like this might be a late replacement opponent, which does make it hard. But then, yeah,
I got it.
yeah,
Lipsky is the minus 120 favorite actually on DraftKings. So
yeah.
it's kind of a pick 'em right now actually.
It is a pick 'em, and I think it is because of that late notice call and the fact that Mandy doesn't necessarily have the deepest resume against top talent. Lipsky has beaten a couple of good girls, so that's probably why she's favourite. But for me, I really like it. You know, undefeated fighters come in and Lipsky's a nice fight. Like she's a good fighter, but it's a nice fight to dip your toe in the water and
Yeah.
get a nice win. So I'm back on Mandy. I think she'll get it, probably a decision win. But Lipsky, obviously, she's game. She can. It wouldn't even be an upset, as we were saying earlier. It'd be a legit win, and I think she needs it.
Yeah.
This is a nice step down in competition for her, so I think she needs to win. It's a really good fight, pretty high up on the card, and we'll move on from that to Armand to. Oh, I know this guy's name, and I always murder it. Tarzukian. He's a brilliant fighter. 24 years old, lightweight phenom. He's on a 3-fight win streak. His only loss in the UFC is Islam Makhachev. So, absolute savage. And this is against Chris Gigos. Step up in the opposition, would you say?
Yeah, but still, I see this going Tzarkian's way. Tarzukian.
Yeah, Tarzukian.
Tarzukian. Yeah. He's a huge favorite. I think I saw as well. So I don't see an upset coming here.
Yeah, I really do like Tarzukian. I think he is another one from Georgia, Russian Georgia. I'm sorry, they'll blast me in the comments if he's actually not Georgian. So yeah, I like the way he's coming. Obviously, he hasn't got since his UFC debut. It's all been decisions. So I think that is the next step for him to start putting the gas on, scoring. The knockouts that got him to the UFC. He got a spinning back kick to the body. He got a head kick just before he got signed. So I think that's the road he needs to go. And we've seen it with Chikadze in the featherweight division. He come in, he worked his way in, he was getting lots of decisions, even a couple of split decisions, but then he started starching dudes. And that last time out, he looked sensational against Barboza. So I expect Tarzukian to do the same. I think this might be the night where he goes in, he makes a statement, he gets a performance bonus, and everyone's talking about him, as we've seen with, Paddy Pimblett the other day, or before that, Barmundos. This might be his night to go and steal the show, go and make some money and really establish himself as a contender, because he's obviously got the quality, he just doesn't have the recognition yet, and it seems inevitable. So I'm backing him to go and make a big statement, potentially score a big knockout win.
Yeah, no, I would say the same. Giga Chikadze is just that after that Edson Barbosa fight, that hype train's really taken off officially. He finally, like you said, he finally went out for that finish, and I would love to see Tarzukian do the same thing here, and like you said, and get a little hype to his name too.
Yeah, and obviously the talent's there. It is just about it's an entertainment business. That's why Conor McGregor is still the man, even though the fact that he's losing it is entertainment, and it's not that Tarzukian isn't, but people love knockouts, they love blood. This is the UFC. The fans are just as savage as the fighters. So I think he'll know that, and this is a good opportunity. They're not moving him too fast. They're giving him the right guys, and I think he will. He'll look spectacular. I am looking forward to this one. I'm looking forward to the fight before as well, because we've got Joaquin Buckley, I think it was about a few months on from now, last year, he was touted as the man. By Dana White was saying ones to watch in 2021 was Joaquin Buckley, Kevin Holland, and it was someone else. It hasn't worked out because Kevin Holland lost to one. Joaquin Buckley got knocked out.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still a lot to like. He's a bit of a savage. What do you make of him?
Oh man, I mean, obviously everyone knows him from the highlight kick. He's just he's just such a specimen in there. Like just looking at him, he's a scary sight. Um, he's just like you said, he's just a savage with his stand up, and he has that knockout power that he can end you at any time. Um, I got him winning this as well. I would put it early, maybe first or second round knockout. I don't see this one going to a decision either. Um, I like Buckley. I think he kind of gets back on track here.
Yeah, and it would be
Starts
a,
putting together a win streak.
if he was able to get the knockout, it would be a good one because Antonio's never been knocked out, lost a couple of decisions, been submitted a couple of times, never knocked out. So that would be a good one, but he's just got to be careful, hasn't he? Sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail, and last time he got absolutely nailed by Alessio Di Cario. And that win, I mean, that loss hasn't aged well at all because Di Cario's just gone and got knocked out in his last fight against Al Hassan, who didn't look like he could buy a win, since his layoff. So Buckley's got a lot to prove. I feel like he's back at the bottom of the pile, but as we said with the last fight, a spectacular knockout, something crazy, and he's back in the mix. He's got Dana White talking about him again, and there's lots of fun fights at middleweight for him. And I think he's going to do what you said. I think he's going to get the knockout. I think he just needs to be careful. Obviously, we can all get nailed. It's UFC. But I'm hoping he comes through because I am a fan, and as I said, 27 years old, lots to look forward to.
For sure, still has a lot of potential. That's why I like Buckley as well.
Yeah, and before that, last on the main card, we've got Tony Gravely against Nate Maness. Since Nate Maness has been in the UFC, I don't know if he's had one or two fights, but they've been fun from what I remember. Absolutely wild fights. Luke Sanders and Johnny Munoz, both, he looks like a savage, but Tony Gravely's right there as well. So I think this is a really fun fight. And if I'm betting on, potential fights of the night, I'm going with this one. I don't know who I'm picking though. Who have you got on this one?
Man, like you said, like it's so up in the air. I'm not sure. I think it goes to a decision, and it might even be a split decision. That's how close this fight is. I don't even have a lean. I don't even have a lean, personally.
It's a tough fight, and I'm just looking at Tony Gravely's record now, and he's only lost to creme of the creme fighters: Brett Johns, Patrick Mix, Manny Benitez, Merab Dvalishvili, Ricky Benavides, Pat Sabatini in his second pro fight. He's been mixing it with the better guys, I would say. He's got a win over Chris Moutinho, Draco Rodriguez. So just based off records, I would edge him, but I think Nate Maness is a bit of a savage. I think he's going to become a fan favorite. He's really fun to watch. As you said, it's going to be tight. I think it will go to 3 rounds. I don't think anyone's getting stopped, and I think it will be potentially a split decision. I'm going to go Gravely, but honestly, this one is one. Again, as I said, if I'm a betting man, I'm going to be sitting back and just enjoying this fight rather than trying to pick a winner, because it is that tight, and it does top off. It's not the strongest card. We're not going to sit here and say we aren't looking forward to 266, but there's some good fights in there that I'm really looking forward to. Are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, I mean, listen, one thing the pandemic taught me was just love any bit of sports you can while they're here, because you never know when it might be ripped away. I mean, UFC wasn't like that, as they still got going through it and really put on some great cards for us. But I look forward to every fight now, so I'm always excited. But like you said, like it's not some of the best fights, especially with what they have coming up with the next 3 months. I mean, these next 3 cards are pay-per-view cards are ridiculous, starting with the Volkanovski Ortega fight. So it's definitely like a little appetizer for the main course.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, especially after a week off, I think we'll just take it anything. So we'll just go through the rest of the card, and I'll pick out a few names I'm interested in watching. I think Mike Rodriguez is always someone to look out for. Raquel Pennington, former title challenger, back in action. Impa Kasanganay, Obviously we've just been speaking about Buckley. He was the one on the receiving end of that. Savage, a knockout loss. Back down at welterweight, he's probably the one I'm looking forward to most. I think he looked really good in his welterweight debut last time, so I look forward to seeing him again. Who are you looking forward to on that undercard?
Actually, the fight I'm looking forward to is the Bush versus Wrong fight too. That looks like it's going to be a pretty close fight as well. I'm excited for that one. Like you said, Pennington. It's always fun to watch Raquel Pennington fight. There's a lot of the other guys I'm looking forward to. Just fighters. Montel Jackson. Looking forward to him. I think he's a huge favorite actually too. It's a lot of decent fights. So nothing crazy, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, UFC 37 this Saturday. So tune into that. And before we go, we'll pick up on some news. It's been, a busy weekend in fight sport, and we'll start with Conor McGregor, as we often do, at the VMAs, swinging on Machine Gun Kelly. I'm sure you've seen it. What did you make of it?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So listen, GSP and Matt Hughes and Carlos Condit and Nick Diaz, I should say. They all got me into the UFC. But Conor McGregor, like I even have a shirt on right now, he got me. He pushed my love for the UFC even further. So seeing him go down like this hole, it's really frustrating to me to watch. And just like the things he says now, I listen, I'm a huge fan. I love him. But seeing him fight with someone like Machine Gun Kelly at the VMAs, like that's never fun. Like you're throwing drinks and stuff. Like you just broke your leg. Like it's just a dark path he went down, and I don't know if he's gonna come back. I don't mentally wise.
I know it's tough with each passing fight. It gets more difficult to make a case for him winning, especially as I said. He's swimming with the sharks, and Dustin Poirier for me is the best lightweight in the world, and Conor McGregor looks far away from that at the minute. So, but because of his history, because of the accolades he's had, he's kind of got to go into them fights, and because of how much money he earns, he's got to be fighting the best. So he can't really do it, Anthony Smith, and drop down the ranks and pick up a few wins and get his confidence back. The amount of stick he got for fighting Cowboy Cerrone, he just can't do it. So. It was a funny situation. I've got to be honest. When I wake up on Monday morning and that's the things I see as an MMA writer, I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be a fun week. When McGregor's in full flow, but a bit worrying as well, considering if you've seen it, the way he like threw the drink, he like stepped on his foot, and I was like, oh, that could be a few more months out. For such a stupid waste of time. He could have actually hurt himself as well. So weird situation. It seems to have all been smoothed over now. He's invited them to his next fight, so whenever that is, it'll be funny to see that interaction. But if you've got anything else that
just a little joking thing. They even put like odds for if Machine Gun Kelly and Conor were to fight, so it's pretty funny.
I don't know who would sanction that, but we're going from one weird fight to another. We've got Vitor Belfort against Evander Holyfield on the weekend, and Silva against Tito Ortiz. Did you watch the event?
I did actually. I wasn't too happy to see that fight even made with Holyfield and Belfort. Man, it was really just upsetting to watch Holyfield as like a 60-year-old, 58-year-old going on 60, really just get starched like that. And I know he's come out and said things like, "Oh, it's fine. Like I actually wanted to go longer," but all I could see was the long-term repercussions of it. And it's just, I know a lot of fight fans were upset that it was even sanctioned in Florida, but that one upset me. Anderson Silva I know it's Tito Ortiz. I know it's not he doesn't really have boxing experience, but he's considered he just impressed me a lot as a boxer. And just watching, I don't know if you saw the ringside camera view of it, but that knockout was pretty brutal actually.
Yeah, and this is the two sides of the coin, because obviously Anderson Silva, 46 years old, he's having a renaissance to his career. He's looking fantastic. So beat Julio Cesar Jr. is amazing. I don't care what anyone says if he didn't train properly. He was a world champion boxer. Anderson Silva is a 46-year-old MMA fighter, well past his prime, still managed to get a win. And then he looked for sensational here. So this is the good side of it. It allows someone like Anderson Silva, who couldn't cut it in the UFC anymore, didn't want to fight MMA. It gives him an opportunity to make money in fights that aren't necessarily that dangerous. And kudos to him, because we all love Anderson Silva. For me, one of the GOATs. Mm-hmm. But then you go on to the next one. Vitor Belfort didn't look that good. Even if he got the win and stopped in the first round, he didn't look particularly sensational. And Evander Holyfield looked like a breeze might push him over. It was, and that was the shit side of it. That was the bad side of it, where you're matching guys who shouldn't be fighting. Maybe De La Hoya would have been a better fight for Vitor. And like Holyfield, he was on the celebrity version of Big Brother in the UK probably over a decade ago now, or maybe even 15 years ago. Back then, he didn't really seem to be making much sense. He seemed to be suffering with CTE. So, all this time on, like it just makes no sense to put him in a ring. But this is the world we are living in. So what's next now for Vitor, for Anderson?
I know Vitor threw out like the Logan Paul fight. He's not going to get that. He's not that big of a name for Logan Paul. If I'm Vitor, I kind of want to stick with the De La Hoya route. Like, let's kind of like see if we can run this back. I think he's going to get beat by De La Hoya for sure. Anderson Silva, actually, I think is a great fight though for Jake Paul. I think it's a step up in competition. I don't think he's going to be very tentative like we saw Woodley was in going for that knockout, going for the win. I think he's going to be a lot more selective, and he's just going to be more polished than Tyron Woodley was too, because he's just the better boxer when it comes down to it. So I think Silva should fight Jake Paul, and I think for Jake Paul too, it would be a good fight. It's not a pushover. It's not someone that's gun shy like Tyron Woodley.
Yeah, I like Silva, but I prefer him against Logan Paul than Jake Paul, because obviously Jake Paul's stick is being like causing drama, creating animosity, getting all these clicks and views, and like he's not going to do that. Silva is. He's a 46-year-old, one of the best ever. So he's not going to be robbing Silva's hat, and if he does, Silva's not going to be bothered by it. All these things. I prefer him against Logan Paul, who seems to be like the calmer one. They could still, do a load of pay-per-views without all that drama. Jake Paul, Vitor makes more sense to me, but I don't think that makes that much sense. I think Jake Paul should be fighting someone like Tommy Fury. I think now's the time to fight a boxer, because obviously it'd be great if he could fight Masvidal, but UFC aren't going to let Masvidal out of his contract. He's just signed it last year to get that title fight. So, yeah, I think Vitor, De La Hoya, Jake Paul, Tommy Fury, Anderson Silva, Logan Paul. You could even do them last two fights on the same card and see how they do. So,
yeah, for sure.
I was kind of on board originally with all this stuff, and I'm kind of on the Jake Paul thing, because he did beat Tyron Woodley and things like that. It's a fair win, but for me, even before that, I was watching the US Open and watching one of our girls win the tournament and thinking, this is like the creme of sports. And then I went from that to watching a 58-year-old man get knocked out. So
yeah,
it's a weird transition, and then people are going to tune in, but I imagine eventually it's going to fizzle out. I think what will happen is Jake Paul will eventually lose. I think he'll get beat by Tommy Fury. Then Jake Paul and Logan Paul will fight each other. Cash out. That'll be it.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good prediction. Like you said, I don't see this. It's like a spectacle, but it can only be a spectacle for so long. I don't see it going on very much further. Like you said, I think the Tommy Fury fight is actually the best fight to make for Jake Paul too, because it's like you said, it's like a showcase of his skill, and it's an actual boxer. And Tommy Fury didn't look that great in his fight either against Jake Paul's corner man friend that he was fighting. I don't know. I don't think any of them are really great boxers. So like you said, it's definitely going to fizzle out.
It's got to fizzle out, but especially the Triller stuff. I don't like the concerts in between and things like that. I'm sure some people like it, but I honestly muted it when it's going on. So we won't waste too much time on that. It's done for now. Let's get back to MMA. And a big talking point has been the debut of Alana McLaughlin, trans fighter. made a debut. She won by second round submission. Have you been seeing all talk about this?
Oh yeah. No, it's been going on. Like people have been talking about it a lot, especially over here. I saw on Sean Strickland what he said about it as well. It's a difficult subject. It really is, because I'm for anyone being who they want to be, but when it starts to interfere with, I want to say like the spirit of the fight game in a way, that's when it kind of bothers me a bit. I don't know how much it gives her an upper hand from being a transgender fighter. I'm sure there's going to be studies on it eventually, if there aren't now, but I'm not exactly for it, I should say.
Yeah, and Michael Bisping, Sean Strickland, Megan Hansen, Sean O'Malley, they're just some off the top of my head who kind of spoke out against it, said it's not particularly fair. And I think Megan Hansen is the one to pay attention to out of all them fighters. You know, she's a big girl. And I'd like to hear from more of the women in MMA. You know, what do you make of this? Are you happy competing against a trans woman? As I said, it's not really a fully studied field. So I'm reserving judgment. Obviously, for me, it seems iffy, but obviously there might be some scientists out there who says it's not really any type of advantage once she's done the whole process of becoming a woman. It's not really an advantage anymore. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out, because I think a lot of people do just jump to, you know, the worst conclusion. You're a cheater, you're hitting women when you're a man, and things like that. But I'm not necessarily there. I'm on the fence. I'm kind of ignorant to the subject, so I don't like to get into my opinion too much. But obviously, just the reaction from the MMA community has been, you know, up in arms. It was when Fallon Fox was here, and she continues to campaign, you know, to go after Joe Rogan and things like that. So, interesting, and I'm sure it's going to carry on. Obviously, just want to know, she got to win. What next for her now? It's like, if people are happy to sanction Evander Holyfield in a fight, is it any more unfair than putting Alana McLaughlin in? I'm not sure. It's a weird one.
For sure, it definitely is, and like you said, it's just a touchy subject, especially when you don't like when you are ignorant to it. So, like you said it perfectly. I'd like to see what the other woman in the division and in the women's divisions have to say, because their opinion matters more than mine, than any of the guys too, in my personal opinion. If they're open to fighting her, then why not? You know.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was why I was very, you know, happy to see Megan Hansen speak on it. You know, 145, one of the big girls. I don't think she could make 155 if she cut off a leg. So she's the person speaking about it. But I'd love to see Nunez speak about it, Cyborg, all these girls, to see how they feel about it. You know, once you've done the process, are you know, allowed to compete? Obviously, you've seen it in the Olympics recently with the New Zealand weightlifter. I don't think she even ranked in the end. So did it matter? Did she have any advantage? Would she have even been in the Olympics if she was competing in the men's division? You know, all these things. So it's a touchy subject, and it's going to play out over the next week or two, or you know, the next month. And we're going to see more people speak about it. And I think it's for the good of the sport, because obviously right now it is a great area. I'd love to just get some, you know, more understanding of where people stand on it. Obviously, we've had a few men speak out, but I think it is for the women to step up and say, is this fair? Is this not fair? And I look forward to it.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's all been a bit weird this week, hasn't it? So what else have we got? Yeah, Piers Morgan was another one who spoke out. So he loves chiming in on all these things. Luke Rockhold, final one. Luke Rockhold is saying that Israel Adesanya and Kamaru Usman should have took a stand when Francis Ngannou got blackballed by the UFC. Have you seen what he's been saying?
Yeah. So listen, that whole thing that happened with Ngannou not getting the championship, well, not the championship, but not being able to defend his championship, I think was wrong too. Like, he wanted to wait an extra month. Like, he's one of our biggest draws in the UFC, and you're not going to give him that respect coming off beating who was considered the heavyweight GOAT at the time, who still is, Stipe Miocic. I kind of agree here with Rockhold. They're supposed to be all Adesanya, Usman, and Ngannou are supposed to be all like real tight. If that's my friend, I'm going to bat for him, especially after everything Ngannou's been through, just to get to where he's at as the heavyweight champ of the world. And then you disrespect him, in my personal opinion, by throwing that interim title to Cyril Gane and Derek Lewis.
Yeah, I personally feel that the UFC were just in a situation where they had this big Houston card. They wanted Derek Lewis to headline it, but Derek Lewis against Gane on pay-per-view without a title, it's a nothing fight, really, isn't it? So I think they just had to do that, and Francis Ngannou unfortunately got caught in the crossfire. It does seem to be a frosty relationship there anyway with Ngannou and Dana White and all that team. So hopefully they can sort it out, because obviously you don't want a John Jones. John Jones is in the prime of his career. He's bulked up to heavyweight, but he's sitting on the sideline, and that's not good for anyone. He doesn't earn money. We don't get to see him fight. The UFC don't get to see him fight in mega pay-per-views. So Ngannou, hopefully he's back later this year. Him against Gane's a monster. It's just a shame it won't be in Paris. And I agree with Luke Rockhold. I agree. At the time, like, the thing is, they always talk about fighter unions and things like this, but it's an individual sport, and as long as you're looked after, does anyone else really matter? And I think we've seen that it doesn't, because as Luke Rockhold was saying, Adesanya and Usman are meant to be Ngannou's boys, and they could have kind of created a little union between themselves and kind of stood up to Dana White, and there might have been a bit of movement. But they didn't, and I don't think they ever will. It seems right now that we're so far away from anyone, unionizing. So, Luke Rockhold got a good point for once.
Yeah, seriously, and especially like how you talked like about the unionizing aspect. I know fighter pay has been a huge talk recently as well. If that could have been the step in the right direction towards unionizing for fighter pay to be better in the UFC as well, because I mean, after we've had so many fighters speak out how they're basically poor fighting.
Yeah, Giada Carinier was one to speak out. Darren Till obviously fought with a torn ACL. I don't want to make assumptions about his finances, but I'm sure that was a financial decision. Obviously other people would have pulled out for that. I think majority of people would have pulled out. Maybe you need the money. So these are top athletes headlining cards, and they're not being properly looked after. And Ayla Hawani announced today or yesterday that there's a new promotion coming that will pay fighters 50-50 in terms of revenue and things like that. We won't get into it right now because the details aren't fully released, but there's something coming in the next week or two, so it'll be exciting to see what it is and see how, if these fighters can get dragged over there.
Definitely, yeah. I saw the same thing you said. He tweeted like last night at like 11 or something.
Yeah. So it's exciting times. I think there's a gap in the market for a fighter friendly promotion to come and scoop all these UFC talents up. For example, Sean O'Malley has got 3 fights left on his contract. He's been very, very vocal about the fact he feels he's underpaid, and he's waiting to see his contract out so he can renegotiate. If a new promotion comes in, says this is how much we can offer you, it's much more than the UFC, people might make the jump. As we say, people have got families to feed and people to look after, and they just want to be treated fairly. And so, yeah, I think in the next 5-10 years, there could be some movement, not on fighter unions, but on fighters just moving to new promotions. And we're going to see it become more like boxing, where it is, the 4 big promotion, the big belts, and everyone goes to different ones and all these things. So interesting times. Thanks for joining me, Mike.
Yeah, of course, Jordan.
Great to chat, and I'm sure we'll have you on in the next few months before you leave us. So yeah, UFC Vegas 37 on this Saturday. Can't wait for that one. And then lots of news we just spoke about. So thanks for joining us, guys. Thanks for joining me, Mike. See you all next time.
Make sure to subscribe to the LowKick MMA YouTube channel for all the latest news, event previews, and interviews with some of the biggest stars in MMA.